Imagine standing on the edge of two worlds. One side is crowded, people running endlessly, chasing paychecks, trading time for survival. The other side is quiet, calm, focused. This is where the 1% live, not just in wealth, but in mindset. Most people see money as something they earn. The rich see it as something they create. While many think of survival, the wealthy think in systems. While most chase comfort, they chase freedom. And while the majority fear losing, the 1% fear never growing. This audiobook isn't about luck, privilege, or fancy titles. It's about perspective, the mental software that turns ordinary minds into financial architects. Today, you step behind the curtain. You'll learn how rich people think, how they see the invisible patterns that others miss, how they shape reality with vision, and how you can too. This is not just a lesson about money, it's a guide to a new way of thinking. Because when you change the way you think about money, money begins to change its relationship with you. Welcome to the Secrets of the 1%. Your transformation begins now. Chapter 1. The Invisible Line. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet tension in the air, the pull between what you have and what you believe is possible. Somewhere deep inside, you know there's more to life than bills, paychecks, and waiting for weekends. You sense there's another way to play this game, a way that doesn't just survive, but creates. That's the moment you start to see it. The invisible line. It's not marked by wealth or status, but by mindset. On one side of that line, people work for money. On the other, money works for them. Most people never even realize the line exists. They grow up surrounded by limitation, told that money is hard, that wanting more is greedy, that stability is safer than freedom, so they learn to trade hours for security, even when it costs them their dreams. But there's another group, a smaller one, who learn to think differently. They see money not as a master, but as a mirror reflecting their understanding of value, time, and creation. They step beyond fear, beyond tradition, and begin to ask the question that changes everything. What if the rules I've been taught are not the real rules? That single question is where transformation begins. When I say the 1%, I'm not talking about the people with yachts and private jets. I'm talking about the thinkers, the ones who broke free from the common pattern. The 1% are those who realized that money isn't about luck or privilege, it's about perspective. They didn't just learn how to make more, they learned how to think differently. You see, wealth doesn't start in the wallet, it starts in the mind. Before a dollar is ever earned, it's imagined, planned, built, and exchanged through belief. The poor and middle class focus on earning money. The rich focus on creating value. That's the first truth most people never see, and until you see it, money will always feel like something just out of reach, something controlled by forces outside of you. But the moment you realize money is an idea, not a piece of paper, not a number in a bank, you begin to understand that it's your thinking that shapes it. Let me paint a picture. Two people stand side by side. They have the same education, the same job, the same paycheck. One of them saves a little, worries a lot, and spends the rest. The other looks at the same paycheck and asks, how can I make this grow? One sees limitation, the other sees leverage. Over time, one stays trapped, the other builds freedom. What separates them isn't opportunity, it's awareness. Awareness is the currency that creates every other form of wealth. It's the ability to see patterns others ignore, to notice how money flows, and to recognize that your beliefs either block or attract that flow. The truth is, money has no morality. It doesn't choose sides. It simply moves toward those who understand it, toward those who respect its laws, who play by its principles, and who stop seeing it as the enemy. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to attract success effortlessly while others struggle endlessly, it's because one group is aligned with how money actually works. They think in systems. They think in results, not rewards. They think in cause and effect, not luck and chance. But the beautiful thing is, anyone can cross that line. It's not about where you're from, it's about where you decide to focus, because every belief you hold about money today was planted in you by your parents, your culture, your experience. You were programmed to think about money in a certain way, And unless you rewrite that program, you'll keep repeating the same patterns. Maybe you were taught that money is scarce, that there's only enough for some people, so you save and hold on tightly, never realizing that fear blocks flow. Maybe you were taught that you're not smart enough to build wealth, so you settle, not because you lack potential, but because you lack permission. Or maybe you were taught that money corrupts, so even when it comes your way, you subconsciously push it away, believing it will change who you are. But here's the truth: the 1% understand. Money doesn't change you, it reveals you. It magnifies what's already inside. If you're generous, money amplifies your generosity. If you're wise, money multiplies your wisdom. If you're reckless, it multiplies your chaos. That's why this journey begins not with strategies or spreadsheets, but with self-awareness. Ask yourself, what do I really believe about money? Do I see it as a friend or as a fight? Do I welcome abundance, or do I feel guilt when I imagine having more? Your answers will tell you where you stand on that invisible line, because the 1% don't just manage money, they manage their mind. They question what others accept, they challenge what others fear. They understand that the only limit wealth truly knows is the one drawn by imagination. When the average person says, "I can't afford it," the 1% ask, "How can I make it possible?" That shift from statement to question is everything. It turns helplessness into creation. It transforms victims into visionaries. The difference between scarcity and abundance is often just one question away, and if you start asking the right questions, you'll begin to see opportunities that were always there, hidden in plain sight. You'll start noticing how people, ideas, and money flow in patterns. You'll start realizing that what you once thought was luck was really preparation meeting awareness. The moment you stop chasing money and start understanding it, everything changes, because money is not chasing you either. It's waiting for direction, for clarity, for someone who knows what to do with it. It waits for creators. It waits for those who solve problems, who serve others, who make life better in some way. And when you become that person, money begins to move toward you naturally, not through force, but through flow. That's the invisible line. It's not outside you, it's inside you. A mental shift so powerful it redefines what's possible. Once you cross it, you stop playing the game of survival and start playing the game of creation. You stop asking for permission and start writing your own rules. This first chapter isn't about tactics, it's about vision, seeing the world through new eyes. Because the way you see money determines how you receive it. When you stop believing that money is scarce, you begin to attract it differently. When you stop associating wealth with guilt, you begin to feel worthy of it. And when you stop fearing the game, you begin to master it. So take a deep breath. You've just taken your first step across the invisible line, from limitation to possibility. In the next chapter we'll go deeper. We'll uncover how the rich measure value not by effort, but by impact. Because the real secret isn't how hard you work, but how deeply you understand what people truly value. That's where wealth begins to multiply. That's where the next level of thinking starts. Welcome to the other side of the line. Now let's explore how value truly creates wealth. Chapter 2. The Value Equation. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. Two people are standing in the same room. Both are working hard, sweat on their brows, time slipping through their fingers. One will barely make enough to survive. The other will build a life of abundance. Same hours, same effort. So what separates them? It's not luck, it's not talent, it's value. The rich understand something the rest of the world overlooks. Money doesn't chase effort. It follows value. Effort alone has limits. You can only work so many hours, lift so much weight, do so much by hand. But value multiplies. It grows with creativity, with problem solving, with imagination. And that's why the 1% don't just work hard, they work smart in ways that expand their value to others. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who spent his life fixing cars. He worked long days, honest days, and by every measure he was hard-working and good-hearted. He charged by the hour, and every dollar he made came directly from his physical labor. One day he met another man in the same business. But this man owned a small chain of repair shops. He worked fewer hours, yet made 10 times more money. Curious, the first man asked, What's your secret? How do you do it? The second man smiled and said, I stopped fixing cars. I started fixing systems. That's the value equation in motion. The poor think in tasks. The rich think in impact. When you trade time for money, you've already limited your value. But when you trade solutions for money, your value becomes limitless. The 1% understand that wealth flows toward usefulness. If you can solve a big problem for a lot of people, the universe will pay attention. Money is simply the echo of the value you send out into the world. So ask yourself, what problem do I solve? Who benefits from what I do? And how can I multiply that impact? That's where everything begins to shift. Because the truth is, you don't need to work harder. You need to become more valuable. Think about it. A musician writes one song that touches millions of hearts and earns for a lifetime. A software engineer writes one line of code that saves people time and gets paid again and again. A teacher creates a course that educates thousands, and her impact ripples across generations. Each of them used the same 24 hours everyone else has, but they invested those hours into something that multiplies. Value is leverage. It's the ability to extend your reach beyond your effort. It's how you turn minutes into momentum, and momentum into meaning. But here's the deeper truth. You can't create value unless you understand value. And most people don't. They confuse effort with worth. They think the harder something feels, the more it should pay. But the world doesn't reward difficulty, it rewards relevance. If you spend your life digging holes, you'll be tired and broke. If you spend your life building bridges, you'll connect worlds. The 1% know this instinctively. They study what people want, what people need, what people feel. They look for pain points, those invisible frustrations people carry every day, and they ask, how can I make this easier, faster, better, or more enjoyable? That question, not how can I make more money, but how can I make more value, is the spark that ignites every fortune. You see, value isn't about greed, it's about service. Money is just the reward society gives to those who serve it well. And service doesn't always mean servitude. It means contribution. It means being part of something that improves lives, even in small, invisible ways. The coffee you drink in the morning, the app that wakes you up, the road you drive on, all are products of someone's value. So if you ever catch yourself thinking, I need more money, pause and reframe it. Ask instead, how can I become more valuable to others? That one mindset shift can rewrite your entire future. Because money is not the cause of value, it's the effect. Chasing money without value is like chasing a shadow. You'll never catch it. But when you walk toward the light of value, money follows naturally. Here's something the 1% understand deeply. The world pays in proportion to the problems you solve and the people you help. Solve a problem for one person, and you'll be paid once. Solve it for 1,000, and you'll never have to worry again. Solve it for millions, and you'll change the world. The formula is simple. Impact multiplied by scale equals wealth. And that formula isn't just financial, it's emotional, spiritual, relational. The more value you bring, the richer your life becomes in every way. But here's where most people get stuck. They underestimate their own value. They think, who am I to make a difference? And that single thought keeps them small. The 1% don't ask that question. They ask, how can I use what I already know to help more people? They turn their skills, their stories, their scars, into something useful. A woman who once struggled with debt becomes a financial coach. A man who battled anxiety starts a business teaching mindfulness. A single mother builds an online store helping others like her find stability. Each one transformed their pain into power, their lessons into leverage. That's real value. That's how wealth is born from purpose. And here's the best part. Value doesn't require permission. You don't need a fancy title, a business card or a degree. You just need the courage to see differently. To stop asking for more and start becoming more. Because the world doesn't owe you anything, but it's waiting to reward your contribution. So look around. Everywhere you go there are problems asking to be solved, and every problem hides an opportunity. The question is, will you train your mind to spot the gaps others ignore? Will you learn to connect what people want with what you can provide? Will you dare to believe that your ideas, your skills, your compassion, can create value on a scale you've never imagined? That's the mindset of the wealthy. Not how can I earn but how can I expand? Not what's in it for me but how far can this reach? Because when you live in the rhythm of value creation, you'll never chase money again. It will chase you. You'll wake up inspired, not because of what you have, but because of what you're building. And that's the quiet power of the 1%. They don't measure life by hours worked, but by lives touched. The poor seek comfort. The rich seek contribution. And contribution, my friend, is the purest form of wealth. Now that you understand the value equation, it's time to learn how the 1% make that equation work for them through something far more powerful than effort: leverage. Because value alone is potential, leverage is what multiplies it into prosperity. In the next chapter, we'll dive deep into the art of leverage, how the wealthy use ideas, systems, and resources to make money work harder than they ever could. That's where the magic begins. That's where your potential turns into power. Chapter 3. The War Within. Mastering your inner battles. Have you ever noticed how the loudest battles in life are the ones no one else can hear? They don't happen in the world around you. They happen inside you. In the silence between your thoughts. In the tug-of-war between your desires and your discipline. In the constant friction between who you are and who you know you could be. Every morning, a quiet war begins. A war between comfort and growth. Between the voice that says, "Stay where you are," and the one that whispers, "You're meant for more." And most people never realize that this inner conflict, this invisible fight, is the single greatest determining factor of their destiny. It's not your circumstances that hold you back. It's not your upbringing, your job, or your environment. It's the battles you lose inside your own mind, the excuses you protect, the doubts you feed, and the fears you surrender to. But here's the truth most people never accept. You can't win in the world if you keep losing in your head. The mind is both your greatest ally and your most cunning enemy. It can build an empire or destroy it before it ever begins. It can create courage or trap you in hesitation. And the moment you understand this, truly understand it, you realize that personal growth isn't about conquering the world. It's about conquering yourself. Let's pause for a moment. Think of the last time you talked yourself out of something you knew was right for you. Maybe it was starting a new project, ending a toxic relationship, or speaking up when you felt unheard. That hesitation wasn't life stopping you, it was your own mind negotiating against your potential. That's the trick of the inner war. It doesn't always look like resistance. Sometimes it disguises itself as logic, or patience, or timing. You tell yourself, "I'll do it later. I'm not ready yet. I'll start when things feel right." But here's the secret. The moment never feels right because growth never feels comfortable. You're not waiting for the right time. You're waiting for permission. And that permission must come from you. The truth is, your mind is constantly shaping your reality through the stories it tells you. Every fear, every excuse, every self-doubt, they're just stories. Stories you've repeated so often that they start to feel like facts. But if your mind is powerful enough to create fear, it's powerful enough to create freedom. If it can invent limits, it can also erase them. This is the real battle, rewriting the story you tell yourself. Every time you choose courage over comfort, every time you act in alignment with your higher self instead of your weaker impulses, you win a piece of that war. And with each small victory, your inner world begins to change, and your outer world follows. You see, inner mastery isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about understanding them. It's not about being fearless. It's about learning to move forward despite fear. It's not about pretending to be unshakable. It's about standing strong even when you're trembling. Think of it like this. Your mind is a wild horse. Left untamed, it runs wherever it pleases, reacting to every sound, every fear, every distraction. But when you learn to guide it, to train it, to focus it, that same energy becomes unstoppable power. The goal isn't to silence your thoughts, but to lead them, to make your mind work for you, not against you. There will be days when you wake up and feel that invisible weight pressing against your chest, that resistance that says, "Not today." That's your inner war calling you to battle. And in that moment you have two choices. You can surrender to the voice of weakness, or you can rise with discipline and face it head on. Because every act of discipline is a declaration of victory over your lower self. When you push yourself to show up, even when you don't feel like it, you're teaching your mind who's in charge. You're saying, I'm not here to be ruled by emotion. I'm here to be led by purpose. Over time, those small daily wins begin to reshape your entire identity. You start to trust yourself again. You stop breaking the promises you make to your own soul. And that's when something powerful happens. Your mind begins to respect you. When your mind respects you, it stops sabotaging you. It becomes your partner in growth instead of your prison guard. But let's be clear, inner mastery is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong practice. The war within never fully ends. The voices of doubt and fear never completely disappear. They simply grow quieter as your strength grows louder. And that's what makes life beautiful. The fact that every day gives you another chance to rise above yourself. Every sunrise invites you to rewrite your story, to stand taller than you did yesterday, to evolve just a little more into the person you were meant to be. When you begin to see life this way, not as a punishment but as a training ground, everything changes. The challenges stop feeling like obstacles and start feeling like opportunities. You stop asking, why is this happening to me, and start asking, what is this teaching me? The mind that once resisted everything becomes curious. The fear that once froze you becomes fuel. The pain that once broke you becomes wisdom. And that's when you realize something profound. The war within was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to shape you, to strip away your illusions, to strengthen your will, to prepare you for the version of life that's waiting beyond comfort. The real victory isn't found in external success. It's in the quiet confidence of knowing you have mastered yourself, that no matter what life throws your way you will not fall apart, because the one who conquers the inner world controls the outer one. So as you continue this journey, remember, you are not your thoughts, you are the awareness that observes them. You are not your fears, you are the strength that faces them. And you are not your past, you are the one rewriting the story right now. The war within doesn't end when the noise stops. It ends when you stop running from it. When you stand in the middle of the storm, look your fears in the eye and whisper, I am ready. Because that moment, that quiet, courageous moment, is where transformation begins. And as we step forward into the next chapter, we'll uncover the next layer of this journey, how to rebuild your mind, one thought at a time, until it becomes your greatest weapon for peace, focus, and unshakable strength. Chapter 4: Rebuilding the Mind. The Architecture of Inner Strength. Imagine standing in the ruins of an old house. The walls are cracked. The foundation is weak. The rooms echo with the remnants of what used to be memories, habits, stories you once believed were true. This is what the mind looks like after years of unconscious living. After fear has built walls, after failure has left its marks, after doubt has quietly moved in and started calling the place home. But here's the beauty of it. You are both the architect and the builder. You can tear it all down. You can start again. And this time you can design a structure strong enough to weather any storm. A mind built on clarity, focus, and purpose instead of confusion, distraction, and fear. Rebuilding the mind isn't about pretending the past never happened. It's about understanding that your past was the blueprint for what not to repeat. It's about looking at every broken beam and cracked wall and saying, I see what went wrong, now I'll build something better. The mind is not a fixed structure. It's alive, constantly rewiring itself based on what you feed it, what you believe, and what you allow. Every thought you think, every emotion you dwell on, every story you repeat shapes the architecture of your inner world. So if your mind feels chaotic, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of construction, the beginning of transformation. To rebuild your mind, you must first clear the debris. That means becoming aware of the mental clutter that keeps you stuck. The overthinking, the self-criticism, the comparisons, the endless noise of opinions that aren't even yours. It's time to strip it all back. Ask yourself, whose voice am I actually listening to? Is it mine, or the echo of someone else's expectations? Because before you can rebuild something new, you must remove what no longer belongs. That's not easy work. It takes honesty, raw, uncomfortable honesty, but clarity is born in truth, not avoidance. And when you face your own mental chaos without judgment, something powerful happens. You create space, and space is where healing begins. Once you've cleared the mental debris, the next step is foundation. What will you build your new mind upon? Most people build their inner world on shaky ground, the approval of others, temporary emotions, fleeting goals. But a strong mind is built on unshakable principles: truth, discipline, gratitude, integrity, awareness. These are not just words, they're anchors. They keep you stable when life starts to shake the walls. Think of your thoughts as bricks. Each one contributes to the structure you live within. Negative thoughts weaken the walls, empowering thoughts strengthen them. And over time, the quality of your thoughts determines whether your inner home feels like a fortress or a prison. Now here's where most people struggle. They try to rebuild their mind overnight, but growth doesn't happen in a single moment of motivation. It happens in the quiet repetition of small, intentional choices. Every morning you wake up and direct your focus, that's another brick. Every time you replace self-doubt with action, another brick. Every moment you choose patience instead of frustration, faith instead of fear, the walls grow stronger. Rebuilding your mind means understanding that progress is invisible before it's undeniable. The world won't see the inner work you're doing. They'll still see the old you, the one who hesitated, who doubted, who gave up too soon. But keep building anyway, because one day the foundation will be so solid that nothing can shake you. Not criticism, not rejection, not failure, because those things no longer define you, they refine you. Let's talk about something deeper, the blueprint. You can't rebuild without a vision of what you're building toward. So ask yourself, who do I want to become? Not what you want to achieve, that's external. Who do you want to be when no one's watching? That's the real architecture of strength. Because achievement without alignment always collapses. But when your identity is aligned with your values, your actions naturally follow. Rebuilding the mind also means learning to think with intention. You become the guardian of your own thoughts. When fear enters, you question it. When doubt whispers, you challenge it. When negativity rises, you redirect it. This isn't about being positive all the time, that's unrealistic. It's about being aware, choosing consciously, and refusing to live as a victim of your own thinking. Your mind, when disciplined, becomes a sacred space, a place where peace can exist even when chaos surrounds you. But that peace doesn't arrive on its own. It's built, brick by brick, through self-awareness and repetition. You train your mind like a muscle, not through bursts of inspiration, but through daily consistency. And here's the paradox: the stronger your mind becomes, the less you need to control the world around you. Because true strength doesn't come from dominating circumstances, it comes from mastering your response to them. A rebuilt mind doesn't react, it responds. It doesn't panic, it pauses. It doesn't chase peace, it creates it. So when life tests you, and it will, remember this: the test isn't there to break you, it's there to reveal how strong your foundation has become. Storms don't scare a builder who trusts their work. They know the structure will hold, and you too can reach that point where your thoughts serve you, your emotions support you, and your mind stands tall no matter what the world brings. Rebuilding the mind is not an act of perfection, it's an act of patience. Every time you slip back into old patterns, you simply begin again. Every time fear tries to move in again, you remind yourself that this is your house now, and you decide who gets to stay. Because the truth is, you've always had the power to rebuild. You just needed to remember that you're not the tenant, you're the architect. And once you see yourself that way, everything changes. Your thoughts become your tools, your focus becomes your blueprint, and your discipline becomes the cement that holds it all together. So as we close this chapter, take a deep breath and imagine it: your mind, clear and strong, rebuilt from the inside out, no longer ruled by the past, no longer shaped by fear, a sanctuary of focus, clarity and strength. Because when you rebuild your mind, you don't just change how you think, you change how you live. You rise differently, you walk differently, you see the world differently. And in the next chapter we'll go even deeper into how to protect what you've built, how to guard your mental fortress from the distractions, doubts and influences that try to break their way in. Because rebuilding is only the beginning. The true test of strength comes in keeping your foundation unshakable, no matter what comes next. Chapter 5. Guarding the Gate. How the 1% protect their mind and focus. There's a moment, every single day, that decides who you'll become. It's quiet, almost invisible, a simple moment of choice. Do you guard your attention, or do you give it away? Most people don't even realize they're under siege. Every scroll, every notification, every opinion thrown at you, it's not just noise, it's invasion. Your mind is a fortress, but most leave the gate wide open. And when you let everyone in, you lose the one thing that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary: control. Think about this. The richest people in the world don't just manage money. They manage attention. They understand that focus is the purest form of power. It's what multiplies effort, sharpens vision, and turns ideas into empires. While most people chase opportunities, the 1% protect the space where opportunities are born. The mind itself. Guarding your mind isn't about isolation. It's about filtration. It's about deciding what and who earns access to your energy, your thoughts, your time. Because not everything deserves entry. Not every conversation is worth engaging. Not every piece of information is worth consuming. The 1% understand that distraction is the enemy of wealth. Not just financial wealth, but mental, emotional, and spiritual wealth. Picture your mind like a garden. If you plant seeds of clarity, gratitude, and strategy, your life grows accordingly. But if you let weeds, negativity, gossip, envy, fear take root, they'll choke everything beautiful before it ever blossoms. The secret isn't in planting more, it's in protecting what you've already planted. Now here's the truth few want to accept: focus isn't something you find, it's something you create. And once you create it, you have to defend it every single day. That's what separates the 1%. They live by discipline, not distraction. They design their environment to serve their vision, not sabotage it. Ask yourself, how often do you give your best energy to the wrong things? How often do you start your day in reaction instead of intention? You open your phone before you open your mind. You scroll before you breathe. You absorb the noise before you've even heard your own thought. And then you wonder why you feel scattered, drained, unfocused. You've been letting the world write your mental script line by line without permission. The elite, the truly successful, live differently. They know that every distraction comes with a price. They don't just say no to protect their time, they say no to protect their mind. They schedule solitude like meetings. They use silence as strategy. They step back from the noise so they can think deeply, clearly, independently. Because when you can't think for yourself, you'll always work for someone who can. Guarding the mind begins with awareness. Pay attention to what enters your world. What kind of content are you consuming? What kind of conversations are you having? Who do you spend time with? And what energy do they bring into your space? Every interaction leaves a residue, some clean, some toxic. The 1% are ruthless about protecting their environment because they understand energy is contagious. If you're surrounded by people who talk about problems, you'll think in problems. If you're surrounded by people who talk about possibilities, you'll think in solutions. That's not philosophy, that's psychology. Your mind becomes what it's most exposed to. So make this your new mantra: protect your inputs. Be selective about what you read, what you watch, and what you repeat to yourself. Guard your attention the way you'd guard your wealth. Because one creates the other. Energy flows where attention goes, and attention shapes your entire reality. You don't need to chase focus, you need to remove the things that destroy it. Silence the unnecessary notifications. Distance yourself from people who drain your spirit. Replace the noise with stillness, even if just for 10 minutes a day. Stillness isn't wasted time, it's mental maintenance. It's the reset button that keeps your inner world clean and sharp. And let's be clear, protecting your focus isn't easy. The world profits from your distraction. Every app, every advertisement, every platform is designed to hijack your attention. But here's the good news: awareness is armor. Once you see the game, you can play differently. You stop being a consumer of distraction and become a creator of direction. The rich don't just work harder, they think longer. They give themselves time to process, to imagine, to plan. They guard that time like a treasure, because they know that deep thinking produces deep results. So when you feel guilty for taking time to think, you're not being unproductive. You're building the foundation for everything productive that follows. Guarding your mind also means protecting your emotional state. because money follows emotional mastery. You can't build wealth in chaos. When you let stress, anger, or insecurity dominate your inner world, you cloud your judgment and sabotage your decisions. That's why the 1% cultivate calm, not because life is easy for them, but because clarity is profitable. When you're calm, you see solutions others can't. When you're calm, you respond instead of react. And that's where power lives, in the space between reaction and response. Let's take this deeper. To truly guard your mind, you must redefine what rich means to you. Because if your definition of success is borrowed from society, from others, from trends, you'll always be chasing shadows. Real power begins with alignment. When your goals, values, and focus all point in the same direction, nothing can distract you for long. You stop living for validation and start living for vision. So here's your challenge. Create your own filter. Before you let anything enter your mental space, ask 3 simple questions. Does this help me grow? Does this align with my vision? Does this bring me peace or noise? If the answer isn't clear, it doesn't belong. Because not everything that looks important is important, and not everything urgent deserves your attention. Guarding your mind is a lifelong practice. It's not about perfection, it's about awareness and discipline. Every day you'll be tempted to open the gates, to let distractions slip back in disguised as entertainment, comfort, or curiosity. But remember, what you allow you become, and every time you choose focus over noise, you reinforce your identity as a creator, not a consumer. Because the truth is, the world doesn't reward the most talented, it rewards the most focused. The ones who keep their mind clean, their purpose clear, and their attention undivided. That's what the 1% know, and it's why they live differently. So as you move forward, treat your mind like your most valuable possession, because it is. Protect it, feed it wisely, give it rest, and never let the world convince you that your focus isn't worth defending. Because the moment you start guarding your gate, your entire life begins to change. You start thinking like the 1%, you start moving with intention, and everything, your success, your peace, your prosperity begins to align. In the next chapter, we'll go deeper into what happens once your focus becomes unstoppable. We'll explore how the 1% turn clarity into creation, how they use their sharpened minds, not just to think, but to build, lead, and leave a legacy. Because guarding the mind is the first victory, but mastering what you do with that mind, that's where greatness begins. Chapter 6. The Power of Consistency. Turning effort into momentum. Have you ever noticed how a river carves its way through stone, not by force but by persistence? It doesn't rush, it doesn't stop, it simply keeps flowing, day after day, year after year. That's what consistency is. The quiet strength that outlasts talent, the humble power that builds empires, and the invisible force that transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Most people underestimate the power of doing something small, regularly. They overvalue intensity, the all-night grind, the sudden burst of motivation, and they undervalue steadiness. But the truth is, it's not what you do once that defines your life, it's what you do every day, especially on the days you don't feel like it. Let's be honest, anyone can start strong, anyone can be excited for a week or a month, but only a few have the inner discipline to keep showing up long after the excitement fades. That's where growth begins, where comfort ends and mastery begins. Consistency is not glamorous, it rarely feels exciting, it's the repetition of small, often unseen efforts, the moments when no one's watching, no one's clapping, and no one's validating you. But that's exactly what makes it powerful, because consistency is a conversation between you and your future. Every time you show up, you're telling your future self, I haven't forgotten you, I'm still building. Think about it this way. A single workout doesn't make you fit, a single study session doesn't make you wise, and one good habit done once doesn't change your life. But compound that action, layer it day after day, and you'll witness a quiet miracle. The person you were slowly fades, and a stronger, more capable version takes their place. That's how greatness is built, not in giant leaps, but in steady steps. Consistency doesn't ask for perfection, it only asks for commitment. It doesn't demand that you never fail, it only asks that you keep coming back, because true discipline isn't about never falling, it's about rising faster each time you do. Imagine a sculptor chiseling away at a block of stone. Each strike seems meaningless, but over time, shape emerges, detail sharpens, and a masterpiece appears. That's your life. Every day you show up, you're shaping the unseen form of your future. You might not notice the progress now, but trust me, it's happening beneath the surface. Here's the secret few talk about. Momentum doesn't come before consistency, it comes from it. We wait to feel ready, motivated or inspired before acting, but action itself creates the feeling we seek. You start, you move, you stumble, and then something clicks. Momentum begins to build, quietly, powerfully, like a wheel that gets easier to push with each turn. This is why the hardest part of any journey is the beginning, because in the beginning, there's no evidence that your efforts will pay off, no visible change, no applause, just silence and self-doubt. But if you can push through that, if you can hold the line through the emptiness, you'll discover something incredible. The process starts rewarding you in ways you didn't expect. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to see yourself as capable, reliable, unshakable, and that identity, that deep inner trust, is worth more than any external success. Remember this, consistency is not about speed, it's about alignment. You don't have to move fast, you just have to move forward. Even 1 inch of progress every day is better than waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. Small progress multiplies, inconsistency kills potential, and discipline, no matter how small, is what separates dreams from results. Ask yourself this, what's one area of your life that would completely transform if you simply stayed consistent for 6 months? Just one. Your health, your finances, your focus, your mindset. You already know the answer, and deep down you also know what's been stopping you. Not lack of time, not lack of knowledge, but the lie that says, if I can't do it perfectly, it's not worth doing. That's the voice that kills more potential than failure ever could. The truth is, imperfect consistency eats perfect inconsistency every single time. You don't need to be flawless, you just need to be faithful. Faithful to your habits, faithful to your growth, faithful to the version of yourself you're becoming. Because consistency isn't about the task, it's about the trust you build within yourself. There's a moment that comes after enough repetition, where something inside you shifts. You stop forcing the habit, and it starts carrying you. You stop dragging yourself to show up, and you start craving the progress. That's when discipline turns into identity, and from that moment on, staying consistent doesn't feel like effort, it feels like truth. So if you're tired of starting over, stop stopping. If you want your life to change, stop waiting for motivation, and start practicing consistency. You'll be amazed at how far a simple routine done daily can carry you, because one day you'll look back and realize the small efforts you once dismissed were the exact bricks that built your new life. Consistency is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. Cross it, one step at a time, and as we move into the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when you combine consistency with clarity, how knowing exactly why you're doing something gives your actions unstoppable momentum, because when purpose meets discipline, the impossible begins to bend. Chapter 7. The Power of Purpose. Why you do it matters more than how you do it. There's a kind of exhaustion that sleep can't fix, the kind that seeps into your spirit, not your body. It's what happens when you're busy, but not fulfilled, when you're working hard, but not sure why, when your days are full, yet your heart feels empty. That's what life without purpose feels like, movement without meaning. And no matter how fast you move, if you don't know why you're moving, you'll eventually run out of energy. Purpose is not just a dream or a goal. It's the invisible fire that gives your actions life. It's what turns routine into ritual and effort into evolution. When you have purpose, even the hardest days make sense. When you don't, even success feels strangely hollow. Purpose isn't found in noise or chaos. It reveals itself in the quiet spaces when you pause, reflect, and listen to what your life has been trying to tell you all along. It's not something you chase, it's something you uncover. like dusting off a truth that's been waiting underneath your distractions. The mistake most people make is thinking purpose is a destination. It's not. It's a direction, a compass that guides every decision, every habit, every chapter of your story. It's what gives consistency its soul. Without purpose, discipline feels like punishment. But with purpose, discipline becomes devotion. Let me tell you something profound. Purpose doesn't make life easier, it makes it meaningful. It doesn't remove struggle, it redefines it. Because when you know why you're struggling, pain becomes progress. Setbacks turn into preparation, and every challenge becomes a stepping stone rather than a wall. Think of a candle burning in the dark. Without purpose, the flame flickers out at the first wind of doubt. But with purpose, it doesn't matter how long the night is, because the flame knows why it burns. That's what keeps it alive. You might ask, how do I find my purpose? The truth is, you don't find it by looking outside of yourself. You find it by paying attention to what moves you deeply, what breaks your heart, what makes time disappear, what could you talk about for hours without forcing it. Purpose often hides inside those answers. It lives in the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, and what the world needs from you. But here's something even more powerful. Purpose doesn't always come with clarity. It often begins with curiosity. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start listening to what excites your soul and scares you a little at the same time, because that mix of passion and fear usually points toward growth. Sometimes, purpose begins with pain, a loss that changes you, a failure that humbles you, a heartbreak that cracks your armor just enough for the light to get in. Those moments hurt, but they also reveal what truly matters. They strip away the unnecessary and what's left is real. Don't rush that process. Don't force your purpose to appear fully formed. It's not a revelation, it's a relationship. It grows as you do, it matures with your choices, your challenges, and your courage to stay aligned when everything tries to pull you off course. When you live with purpose, something beautiful happens. You stop competing, you stop comparing your path to others, because you realize that your journey has its own rhythm, its own lessons, its own timing. Purpose gives you peace, even in uncertainty, because you know you're moving in the right direction, even if you're not there yet. The world will try to distract you. It will whisper that comfort is safer than calling, that chasing meaning is too uncertain, but comfort without purpose always leads to quiet misery. You weren't built to just survive, you were built to serve something greater than yourself, and that something doesn't have to be grand or world-changing. It can be as simple as creating, helping, teaching, or inspiring. Purpose is not measured by scale, it's measured by sincerity. When you align your actions with your purpose, life begins to feel lighter, not because challenges disappear, but because you're no longer walking in circles. You wake up with direction, you act with clarity, and you rest with peace. That's the gift of living on purpose. If you've ever wondered why you lose motivation so easily, it's because your goals aren't connected to something deeper. Motivation fades but meaning endures. You can't rely on willpower forever, it runs out. But when your actions are tied to your why, you no longer need to push yourself. Something within you starts to pull you forward. Think of your purpose as the roots beneath your tree. They're invisible, but they feed everything above. Without roots, even the tallest tree will fall when the storm comes. But when you're grounded in why you do what you do, no storm can uproot you. You might bend but you won't break. So ask yourself right now, what truly matters to me? What kind of life do I want to create? Not just for myself but because of myself. What do I want my effort to stand for? The answers won't come all at once, but they will come if you keep asking. And once they do, everything changes. Because purpose doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are while you're doing it. It turns ordinary work into sacred practice. It transforms simple moments into meaning-filled experiences, and it reminds you that you are not just passing through life, you are shaping it. So let this be your reminder. Your purpose doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be true. Start where you are, move with intention, and let your why breathe life into everything you touch. As we move into the next chapter, we'll explore how to protect your purpose, how to guard it against distractions, self-doubt, and the subtle forces that try to pull you off course. Because once you've found your why, The next challenge is learning how to stay true to it, no matter how loud the world becomes. Chapter 8. Protect your energy, guarding what fuels your purpose. There comes a point in every journey where the battle is no longer about finding your path, it's about protecting it. When you start walking in purpose, distractions don't disappear, they multiply. Suddenly, everyone and everything wants a piece of your attention. The world doesn't always try to stop you with failure, it tries to drain you with noise. That's why protecting your energy isn't just self-care, it's self-respect. It's the conscious decision to defend the life you're building from the things that quietly destroy it. Because here's the truth. Your focus is your fuel, and when you allow too many leaks in your energy, even your strongest purpose will begin to fade. Imagine a candle in a storm. If you don't shield that flame, the wind doesn't have to be violent to blow it out. All it takes is distraction, small, constant gusts of things that don't matter. That's what happens when you allow your mind, your emotions, or your time to be owned by everything around you. Your fire weakens, your direction blurs, and soon you're busy, but no longer becoming. Protecting your energy begins with awareness. Ask yourself, what drains me? Who drains me? What habits leave me empty instead of alive? These aren't easy questions, but they're necessary ones, because every day you are making trades. Attention for distraction, peace for validation, growth for comfort. And most of the time, those trades are unconscious. The people you surround yourself with play a powerful role in this. Not everyone who claps for you is rooting for you. Some just don't want to see you fall too far behind or rise too far above. Be kind, but be selective. Your environment shapes your energy. You can't heal in the same places that made you sick. You can't stay focused while standing in constant noise, and you can't elevate while staying around people who are comfortable staying still. That doesn't mean you cut everyone off. It means you learn to create emotional boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they're gates. They don't keep love out, they keep peace in. When you protect your energy, you're not rejecting others. You're honoring yourself. You're saying my growth matters, my peace matters, my purpose matters, and that kind of self-respect changes everything. But people aren't the only threat to your energy. Your habits are endless scrolling, constant comparison, trying to fix what doesn't want to be fixed. These are silent thieves of joy. You think you're resting, but you're actually exhausting your spirit. You think you're connecting, but you're really just consuming. And when you consume too much of the wrong energy, your mind becomes heavy with things that don't belong to you. Learn to unplug, learn to sit in silence again. Because silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. That's where you reconnect to yourself. That's where you remember what actually matters. The world will constantly scream for your attention, but your purpose whispers. And if you never slow down, you'll never hear it. Protecting your energy also means protecting your thoughts. Because your inner world creates your outer world. If you feed your mind with fear, you'll move in fear. If you feed it with doubt, you'll live small. But when you feed it with gratitude, with perspective, with strength, your energy expands. You start moving through life with calm confidence instead of frantic control. You stop reacting to every situation and start responding with intention. That's power, quiet, steady, undeniable power. You'll notice something interesting when you protect your energy. Peace becomes addictive. You start craving it more than approval. You start choosing stillness over chaos, solitude over crowds, purpose over popularity. Because you finally realize that nothing outside of you can give you what only alignment within you can. Your peace is your greatest possession. Lose that, and even success feels heavy. Protect it, and even simple moments feel sacred. Now, protecting your energy doesn't mean avoiding challenge. It doesn't mean hiding from discomfort. Growth itself requires friction. But there's a difference between the struggle that builds you and the struggle that breaks. The first one stretches your capacity. The second one drains your soul. Learn to tell the difference and walk away from the energy that only takes. Here's something most people forget. You don't owe everyone access to your time, your attention, your emotional space. These are sacred currencies. Don't spend them where there's no return. Give freely to what grows you, not to what drains you. Give to relationships that pour back, to habits that expand you, to dreams that ignite you. That's how you stay full. That's how you stay lit. Your energy is a reflection of your alignment. When you start feeling off balance, anxious, or overwhelmed, it's usually a sign that your energy is being pulled in too many directions. Pause, recenter. Ask yourself, is this helping me become who I want to be, or is it pulling me away? And if it's the latter, have the courage to step back. Not everything deserves your immediate response. Some things only deserve your silence. When you master your energy, life stops feeling chaotic, because you're no longer at the mercy of everything happening around you. You become deliberate with your presence. You start showing up where it matters most, in your purpose, in your growth, in your peace. And the world begins to respond differently to you, not because it changed, but because you did. So protect your energy the way you'd protect something priceless, because it is. It's the battery that powers your dreams, your purpose, your evolution. Without it, nothing thrives. With it, everything flows. As we move into the next chapter, we'll go even deeper into the quiet battlefield of the mind. Because once you learn to guard your energy, the next step is learning to master your thoughts. The inner dialogue that shapes your reality and determines whether your energy works for you or against you. That's where the true transformation begins. Chapter 9, Master Your Mind, the silent force that shapes everything. There's a moment, a quiet one, when you realize that every battle you've ever fought, every fear you've ever faced, and every limit you've ever believed in, all began in one place, your mind. The real war was never out there. It was always in here. And the truth is both powerful and unsettling, because once you understand that your mind is the architect of your reality, you can no longer play the victim of circumstance. Your thoughts are the seeds of everything you experience. Every feeling, every decision, every action, it all begins as a whisper in your mind. And if you don't learn to master that voice, it will master you. Most people never stop to realize how much power their inner dialogue holds. They wake up each day, replaying the same beliefs, the same doubts, the same fears as if they're stuck on repeat. They don't question the voice that says, "You're not enough. You can't do this. What if you fail?" They just listen. They obey. And slowly that voice becomes their reality. But here's the thing about the mind, it doesn't know the difference between truth and habit. Whatever you tell it often enough, it believes. So if you keep feeding it fear, you'll live in fear. If you keep feeding it limitation, you'll move through life in chains that you built yourself. But when you feed it strength, discipline, and faith, you start to rise. Not because the world gets easier, but because you get stronger. Mastering your mind doesn't mean silencing your thoughts. It means learning to direct them. It means becoming the observer instead of the prisoner. When a negative thought appears, you don't fight it, you recognize it, question it, and choose differently. You remind yourself, this thought is not who I am, it's just a pattern I've been practicing. And the moment you stop identifying with that thought, it begins to lose its grip. Think about how much time we spend trying to control things we can't, people, outcomes, timing, opinions. But the only real control we ever have is over what we allow to live in our mind. That's where freedom begins. That's where peace is built, thought by thought, belief by belief. The mind is like a garden. If you don't tend to it, weeds will grow by default. Negativity, doubt, comparison, they spread fast when left unattended. But if you choose to plant intention, gratitude, and clarity, your life begins to bloom differently. Not because the soil changed, but because you did. Training your mind is not a one-time effort, it's a daily discipline. You don't go to the gym once and expect to stay strong forever. In the same aim, you can't feed your mind weakness every day and expect strength to suddenly appear when you need it most. Mental mastery comes from repetition, from consciously choosing empowering thoughts again and again until they become your natural rhythm. One of the most powerful things you can do is speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love. Because how you talk to yourself becomes how you live with yourself. You can't shame yourself into greatness. You can only grow yourself into it. When you start replacing self-criticism with compassion, something amazing happens. Your energy shifts from resistance to possibility. You stop fighting your potential and start nurturing it. There will be days when your mind feels like an enemy, when the noise gets too loud, and every thought feels heavy. In those moments, don't try to force silence. Instead, step back and breathe. Remind yourself that you are the awareness behind the thought, not the thought itself. You are the sky. Your thoughts are just passing clouds. Some are dark, some are light, but none of them define the sky. Mastering your mind also means mastering your focus. What you give attention to grows, so if you constantly focus on problems, you'll keep finding more of them. But if you start focusing on possibilities, you'll begin to see doors where there used to be walls. It's not that life suddenly changes, it's that your perception does. And perception is everything. Here's a truth that few understand: your outer world will always mirror your inner world. If your thoughts are chaotic, your life will feel chaotic. If your thoughts are grounded, your life will reflect peace. That's why mental discipline isn't just a mindset, it's a lifestyle. It's the quiet strength that holds you steady when everything else feels uncertain. You might be wondering, how do I actually do this? How do I control something as wild as my thoughts? Start small. Begin by noticing. Awareness is the first step to transformation. Every time you catch yourself thinking in limitation, ask, is this thought helping me grow, or holding me back? Then consciously replace it with one that empowers you, even slightly. At first it feels mechanical, but over time it becomes natural. Remember, the mind loves patterns. If you repeat fear, it becomes familiar. If you repeat strength, that becomes familiar too. Eventually, your mind begins to work for you, not against you. It becomes a partner in your purpose, not a barrier to it. When you master your mind, you stop reacting and start creating. You stop being a passenger in your life and take the wheel. You move from chaos to clarity, from self-doubt to self-direction. And in that shift, everything changes. You see, mental mastery isn't about becoming invincible, it's about becoming intentional. It's knowing that challenges will come, but you won't crumble. It's knowing that fear will whisper, but you won't listen. It's the quiet confidence of someone who understands that peace isn't the absence of storms, it's the ability to stay centered within them. Your mind is the bridge between who you are and who you can become. Treat it with care, feed it wisdom, challenge it, guide it, and above all, believe that it can change, because it can. Once you understand this truth, you stop waiting for the world to make sense. You realize that the world reflects the sense you bring into it. When your mind becomes still, the noise around you loses power. When your thoughts become clear, your path does too. And that's when you finally step into mastery, not of others, not of circumstance, but of yourself, because that's where true freedom lives. As we move into the next chapter, we'll explore the power of alignment, how to bring your mind, heart, and actions into harmony. Because mastering your mind is only the beginning. The real transformation begins when your thoughts and your purpose start moving as one. Chapter 10. Align and Ascend. The ultimate path to wealth and fulfillment. Close your eyes for a moment and picture a beam of sunlight breaking through a dense forest. It doesn't fight the trees, it doesn't push against the shadows, it simply finds the path that allows it to shine. This is the essence of alignment. When your thoughts, your actions, and your purpose flow together, you don't have to struggle against life, you begin to move with it. This final chapter is about taking everything you've learned, the mindset, the discipline, the energy, the mental mastery, and weaving it into a life that feels effortless, yet powerful. Because wealth in the truest sense isn't just about money. It's about living fully in alignment with who you are and the impact you are meant to have. It's the rare ability to wake up every day and feel that your life, your actions, and your values are moving in the same direction. Alignment begins with clarity. You cannot align what you do with what you do not understand. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? Not what society says you should want, not what your family expects, not what your fears dictate, but what burns in your own heart. The answer may be uncomfortable. It may contradict the life you've been living, but it is yours, and it is the seed of everything that follows. Next, alignment demands action. A clear vision without action is a dream, but action without clarity is chaos. When your steps match your intention, momentum becomes unstoppable. Every decision, every choice, every commitment is like a note in a symphony. When played in harmony, the result is powerful, moving, and unforgettable. Wealthy minds understand this principle intuitively. They know that the world rewards alignment, not effort alone. Money, opportunity, and influence flow naturally to those who operate from coherence. It's why two people can work equally hard, but only one seems to move through life with grace, while the other struggles endlessly. It's not luck, it's alignment. But alignment is not static, it's not a one-time achievement. It's a living, breathing practice that requires constant attention. You must check in with yourself daily. Are your actions serving your goals? Are your thoughts feeding your growth? Are your relationships supporting your vision? If the answer is no to even one of these questions, it's time to adjust. The light doesn't fight the forest. It shifts, it bends, it adapts, and so must you. Another essential piece of alignment is value. When your actions are guided by your deepest values, life becomes simpler, decisions become easier, opportunities become clearer, and resistance diminishes. Wealth without value is empty. Purpose without action is wasted, but when both converge, the results are profound, not just in your bank account, but in your fulfillment, your relationships, and your legacy. Alignment also requires courage. It demands that you release what no longer serves you, even when it's comfortable. It requires leaving behind old habits, toxic people, and outdated beliefs. Because every misalignment costs you energy, peace, and growth. And every realignment renews your power, your focus, and your capacity for greatness. Let's be clear, wealth in the top 1% is never purely accidental. It is the result of intentional alignment over time, choosing thoughts, actions, and relationships that amplify rather than drain, choosing opportunities that expand rather than contract, choosing energy that empowers rather than diminishes. But true alignment doesn't end with personal gain. It flows outward. When you operate in harmony, you influence others without force. You inspire without preaching. Your actions ripple beyond your life, touching families, communities, and industries. This is the invisible currency of influence, the byproduct of a life lived in alignment. Now imagine combining all the lessons of this audiobook, the mindset of the 1%, the energy you protect, the mental mastery you cultivate, the habits that build your fortune, and weaving them into daily life with precision. The result is not just financial wealth, it is resilience, it is freedom, it is the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are building a life they can be proud of, every single day. As you step forward from this moment, remember, alignment is a practice, not a destination. Some days will feel off, some days will feel effortless. That's the rhythm of growth. The key is to keep returning to your core, your vision, your values, your purpose, and letting them guide every step. The ultimate secret of the 1% is not just thinking differently about money, but thinking differently about life. They understand that money follows clarity, discipline, and purpose. They know that energy, focus, and mental mastery are the true forms of wealth, and they live in a constant state of alignment, which allows them to move with confidence, courage. So here's your invitation. Take what you've learned. Look inward, clarify your purpose, align your actions, protect your energy, master your mind, and then step forward boldly, knowing that your life is no longer left to chance. You are intentional, you are empowered, you are aligned. And as you move into this new phase of your journey, remember this: wealth is never just a number, it is the reflection of a life lived with integrity, focus, and alignment. It is the manifestation of inner mastery projected out. It is the art of becoming the person capable of creating the life you once only imagined. You are ready. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, not when the world finally aligns. You are ready now. And alignment, the path to true wealth and fulfillment, is waiting for you to step onto it. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a life lived fully, intentionally, and powerfully. Take the lessons you've learned, carry them in your mind and heart, and let your aligned actions shape the world around you. Because the life you've dreamed of is not out there somewhere, it is being created every moment by the clarity, courage, and alignment you choose to embody today. Welcome to the life of the 1%, not because of money, but because of mastery, mastery of mind, energy, and purpose. This is your moment. Step forward and ascend.